Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we got top 15. This is top 15 terrifying killers you've never heard of. We won't get right into this. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, stick down below. Let's go.
Number 15. Rodney Ola USA. Described as a handsome and charming man, Ola claims
We know definitely about Rodney Ola. Okay, he's the dating game killer. We all know who he is. That is just unnecessary to be on this list.
to have killed over 30 women throughout Southern California, while he is suspected in several murders in New York, with a possible total of 130 murders across the US. Ola would enchant women with his words and good looks, claiming to be a photographer and offering to kickstart a modeling career. After taking a few photos, he would attack and rape his victims before killing them. Even more disturbing is he was selected as a contestant on the dating game and won. Fortunately, the women found Ola too creepy and refused to go out with him. By the time he was on,
Luckily, the woman saved her life from that. All just from her saying, absolutely not, you are a creepy weirdo, you're too creepy, I'm not going to date with him. Saved her own life, guarantee it.
on the show, he was a convicted child molester and had been on his serial spree for several years. He was arrested in 1979 and found guilty in 3 separate trials.
He had to have changed the name, right? He had to give him a different name or something. Because how does no one... Listen, how is there no check on him? Background check on him before he got on this game show. Maybe it just... I don't know if it's something you could be blamed on the top, but I feel like that's an easy thing to do. Make sure someone isn't a child molester, murder or anything before they come on the show.
In 1980, 1986 and 2010, all of which he received the death penalty. He is currently awaiting execution in San Quentin prison. Many of the women Ola photographed are still unidentified, and police have posted the images online in hopes of setting closure for these unnamed victims. 14. Andre Chikatilo.
Holy shit, is that guy creepy. I didn't realize this guy was gonna be so good. They took a first picture immediately made me jump. This is what creepiness is all about, ladies and gentlemen. I choose you the definition of creepy in this guy. Holy crap.
Soviet Union, Russia. Appropriately named the Butcher of Rostov, Chikatilo murdered 52 women and children, ranging in age from 7 to 45 between 1978 and 1990. He used his knowledge as a former schoolteacher to lure runaway children from rail stations into the wooded areas around Rostov, where he would rape and murder them. According to psychologists, he found murder sexually arousing and would only achieve orgasm while stabbing his victims. Chikatilo was able to evade capture for so long due to a mix of corruption and bureaucratic attempts to cover up the killings in order to maintain the myth of serial murder being solely a Western phenomenon.
That is so pathetic. They were so this guy got away with murdering for so many people for so long only because of the sad patheticness that is the Russian people wanting to have a little great reputation of them believing that murder only happened in the West. That is sad. I feel so bad for the victims here that they just got brushed aside by Russian government and Russian thing, all for their own pathetic need of having a non-serial killer reputation. I have a feeling it's like the only time they've ever had a serial killer, so I have a feeling you can't do that now.
2 innocent men were tried and executed for his crimes. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russian authorities sought help.
Wait, did you just say 2 innocent people were killed and executed for this? How did you just 5 people off the street? Because I don't know how you wouldn't look at this guy. You send me a picture of this guy and said, do you think he's a serial killer? I would have said 100%. I would have said 100%, and you told me he wasn't one. I'd be like, you're lying to me, and he hasn't been captured yet. That's all it is. Because there is no way this man is not a crazy psychopath or the guy who looks like... I'm surprised he's not a cannibal. As weird as that say, he looks like a guy who would be. I'm sorry, he's just... I'm the one that can sit... I know the whole thing, you're not supposed to judge me by appearances, but I'm the man that if I believe someone looks like a thing, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I don't care. I'll have people think I'm crazy and that I'm weird. I don't care. I am weird. I'm a weirdo. It's just... It's part of my DNA. I'm just that weird dude on YouTube. Yeah.
Help from the FBI and were able to capture Chikatilo after an extensive stakeout of railway stations around the Rostov region. He was convicted of all 52 murders and was executed by gunshot to the head in 1994. 13.
Oh, man, honest. That's a visual I love to see. As psych as that sounds, I'd love to see an execution that style. No, I don't want to see no one put a needle now. I want to see the execution where you load a gun up while the guy's back's turned and you just fire at the killer. I love that thought. That's justice right there. Little needle? Nah, that ain't justice. That ain't justice to me. That ain't a murder execution. A killer, a serial killer, should be killed either the same way or a brutal way, because they took a bunch of innocent lives. Their lives should not be treated as something that deserves a kind death.
Fred and Rose West, UK. This British couple from Gloucester murdered 11 girls and young women between 1967 and 1987, including a woman pregnant with Fred's child and Fred's stepdaughter from his previous marriage. Their basement was a makeshift torture chamber, earning the house the title House of Horrors. Fred would savagely torture and rape the victims, with full cooperation and participation from Rose. Most of the victims were kept alive for days and subjected to various amounts of abuse, too graphic to describe. The Wests were caught after Fred filmed himself raping his own daughter, and she told her friends at school what had happened. Although the investigation collapsed, the Wests found themselves on police radar, and a search warrant was obtained in 1994. Investigators uncovered the remains of several victims buried beneath the floorboards and the garden. Fred hanged himself in his cell during the trial, while Rose was given a life sentence without any possibility of release. The Wests' home on Cromwell Street was demolished in 1996 and is now a public walkway to the city centre. 12. Leonardo Chuli. Known as the soap maker of Corrigo, Chuli murdered 3 women between 1939 and 1940 and used their bodies to make soap. Chuli had a chaotic upbringing, having been a result of her mother's rape, leading to an antagonism between the two. After Chuli's son was drafted into the Italian army on the prelude to the Second...
I just realized who this is. I just realized who this is. Mr. Ballin did a video on her. Hold on a minute. I'm figuring out what the video is. Hold on. I know what the... It was... Neighborhood killer does the unthinkable. That was the one that's the one on her. Because the guy was drafted to the army. She killed people, she killed 3 people, thinking she was doing a good deed. She would rub the soap on him to thinking they would keep him alive. Yeah, she's weird. Yeah, Mr. Ballin, Neighborhood Killer Does the Unthinkable, is on her.
World War, she came to believe human sacrifices were required to ensure her son's safety. Along with the soap, Chuli would dry her victims' blood and mix it into flour, sugar and milk, which she and her son would consume. As for the bars of soap, she would give them as gifts to her neighbours. Chuli remarked on the last victim, "The cakes too were better. That woman was really sweet." An eyewitness eventually led police to Chuli, and she was sentenced to 30 years in prison. She died of a brain hemorrhage in 1970 while still serving her sentence. 11. Russell Williams, Canada.
Oh, there's a YouTube thing on him. I don't know if I can react to it. because it was done by, I think, an actual TV station, so I don't know if I can react to it, but I really want to, because this guy is fucking weird, and got some shit going on with him that needs to be looked at. It's just not logical, not right.
David Russell Williams was a highly respected colonel in the Canadian Air Force who commanded CFB Trenton. Behind the facade of military officer and husband, Williams held an overwhelming lust and would break into his neighbors' homes to steal female underwear. Once home with his stash, he would wear and take pictures of himself in the items he collected. After sexually assaulting 2 women, Williams upgraded to murder when he killed Corporal Marie-France Como, a military flight attendant who worked at Trenton in November 2009. He then kidnapped Jessica Lloyd in January 2010 and raped her several times over the course of a few days before she succumbed and died. However, Williams' luck ran out. His tires were matched to tracks at Como's home and he was summoned for questioning by detectives. Williams was arrested on February 7, 2010 after he confessed to Ontario Provincial Police during a 10-hour interrogation. He's serving a life sentence in prison with no possibility of parole. 10. Robert Ben Rhodes, USA. Rhodes worked as a truck driver and delivered to various locations around the US. He had previously been a Marine, but was discharged after being arrested for robbery in the 1960s. Rhodes murdered 3 people between November 1989 and February 1990. His first 2 kills were newly married couple Candace Walsh and Doug Zaskowski, whom Rhodes picked up while they were hitchhiking. Zaskowski was first killed, while Walsh was kept alive as Rhodes tortured and raped her in a makeshift torture chamber he made in the back of his truck before strangling her to death. The third victim was 14-year-old Regina Walters, whom Rhodes picked up just outside of Chicago. He cut off most of Walters' hair, forced her to wear high heels and a black dress, then proceeded to take several photographs of her in an abandoned barn before murdering her.
I know this one too. This was a story, I believe, of the Solved Crimes one. This is the Solved Crimes one we watched. I believe the photo of her, because now that I have the vision, I think I know what it was, because it was not like after the photo was taken that he killed her. I think I know what the photo is. Oh, I'm not gonna put it up, but I think I know what this is too.
Rhodes was arrested in Arizona after officers discovered his 4th victim still alive in the trailer. He stood trial in Illinois for the murder of Regina Walters and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. The most haunting item of the case is an image of Walters in the black dress and high heels, facing her attacker with a look of fear on her face. 9. Pedro Alonzo Lopez, Colombia. Appropriately named the Monster of the Andes, Lopez is suspected for the murder of over 300 girls throughout Peru and Colombia. The son of a
Suspected of the murder of over 300? Oh my fucking god. That is insanity. How does a man kill 300 women and not get looked at?
prostitute, Lopez was kicked out by his mother at age 8, and he learned to fend for himself. Leading a life of car theft during his teens, Lopez began to lure girls into abandoned buildings or wooded areas in his adulthood, where he would rape and kill them through various forms, mostly strangulation. He claimed his reason was due to him being a victim of rape and his desire to do the same to as many young girls as possible. Lopez was captured when market vendors saw him attempt to abduct another girl, and they intervened. At first, police refused to believe his claimed kill count until a flash flood washed up one of the mass graves. Later, he led police to a mass grave, revealing 81 bodies. He spent
Holy sh... So he told them, I've killed almost 300. Didn't know where that's true. We don't believe you at all. That is not true at all. And then they said, a flash flood showed one mass grave where he found some bodies. Then he took him to another one that had 81 bodies in it, in the span of the graves. Oh my god. That is an insanity.
18 years in an Ecuadorian prison before being released and deported back to Colombia, only to be rearrested by police and sent to prison until 1998. As of 2002, he has been placed on Interpol's most wanted list for suspicion of further murders, though his current whereabouts, or whether he is still alive, is unknown.
How on earth did this guy get free at all to be put on a most wanted list? Once I found out that man had a grave of 81, I'm making sure that man can never leave prison. Even if he has to be transported, if he's going back to Colombia, I want Colombia to agree to put this man in a prison right when he gets there. And if I find out he's coming released, I'm gonna go to prison. I'm gonna go to Colombia and we're gonna have a talk. We're gonna have a talk of what the fuck they're thinking. How is this man even able to get on the most wanted list?
8. Dennis Neilson UK. Described as Britain's Jeffrey Dahmer, Neilson murdered 15 homosexual men by strangulation or drowning in his Muswell Hill home in London between 1978 and 1983. He would bathe, dress and keep the bodies for extended periods of time before dissecting and disposing of them via burning or flushing the remains down the toilet. Neilson
Is this another one Mr. Bond did a video on? Not like specifically him. But I swear he was he was in one of the 3 stories that you would think are fake but 100% true. He sounds like a story that was in that. I don't know for sure, but I think he was.
Developed his twisted sexual fantasy based on the Theodore Jericho painting Raft of Medusa, where an old man is depicted holding the deceased body of a young, nude man on the bottom left of the haunting image. His fantasies included domination of a young, frail corpse by an older man such as himself. His murders came to light when city workers discovered human flesh in his sewage and notified authorities. When asked if he felt remorse for his killings, Neilson replied, "I wished I could stop, but I couldn't. I had no other thrill or happiness." He was charged with 6 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, sentencing him 25 to life in prison. 7. Luca Magnata, Canada. An aspiring...
I know this guy. Yep. I don't think... Is this... There was one guy I remember. I don't know if it's him or someone else. There was one guy who was killed. Who knows killed? He was caught by police because he was looking up himself on a Wi-Fi thing. I don't remember which one it is, but I feel like it's either him or it's who's the other one I'm thinking of? There's a Netflix thing on him, and there's a whole Netflix series on the catch of him. I can't remember his name. I'm getting... Damn it! Forget it. It's either him or someone else. I just don't remember.
Aspiring model from Ontario, Magnata was described as an intense, if shy person, making money as a male escort in Montreal. He was obsessed with self-image and was known to frequently pay for plastic surgery in order to increase his beauty. Deep down, nothing was beautiful though, and he made national headlines when a severed foot arrived in the mail to Conservative Party headquarters in Ottawa, while a second package addressed to Liberal Party HQ was intercepted by police, revealing a severed hand. The hand and foot were quickly linked to a dismembered torso found in a suitcase outside Magnata's apartment. Soon after, a video surfaced online titled "One Man, One Pickaxe," which is claimed to be the video of Magnata murdering Chinese exchange student Lin Jun, who was revealed to be the victim discovered in the alley. Magnata fled Canada and hid in Germany until he was recognized at an internet cafe and reported to German police. When he was caught, he was reading news articles about the murders, relishing...
It's him. Okay, it's him. I thought so. It was him or someone else I knew. I knew one killer got caught looking up themselves and reading stuff on themselves. I didn't know if it was him or someone else. Can't remember what the other guy's name is. But lucky enough, it doesn't matter because it was him.
In his twisted claim to fame. He was extradited back to Canada, where he received a life sentence in December 2014. 6. Alan Ledger, Canada. Given the sinister name the Monster of Miramichi, Ledger led an extensive criminal record before graduating to serial murder in the late 1980s. While serving a life sentence for a previous murder, he escaped from a prison hospital and went on a murder spree in the area surrounding the Miramichi River of New Brunswick. Ledger would break into homes at night, rape the owners, then beat them to death before burning the home down. Several of his victims were beaten so severely they choked to death on their own vomit. During his 7-month murder spree, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police launched one of the largest manhunts in Canadian history, but seemed helpless to catch the crazed man. Eventually, Ledger was captured in November 1989 after a police pursuit when he attempted to reach a nearby airport. He claimed he was going to steal a plane and fly to Iran, though he has never explained why. Ledger received another life sentence without parole and is currently serving his sentence in a maximum security prison. 5. Larry Bittaker and Roy Norris USA. Collectively known as the Toolbox Killers, Bittaker and Norris preyed on young women throughout California over a 5-month period in 1979. The two would kidnap their victims, drive to a secluded area, then proceed to rape and torture them using an array of tools they kept with them before ultimately killing them. John Douglas, one of the first FBI criminal profilers, described Bittaker as the most disturbing person he'd ever profiled. 2 of the victims, aged 13 and 15, were held captive for 2 days and were forced to pose for pornographic photos, along with being subjected to gruesome tortures before finally being killed. Their murder spree was thankfully cut short when Norris confided in a colleague, Jimmy Dalton, about the murders, and Dalton contacted authorities. After a surveillance investigation, Norris and Bittaker were arrested for dealing and possession of marijuana. While in custody, Norris agreed to confess and testify against Bittaker in exchange for a lighter sentence. Norris received a life sentence, while Bittaker is currently awaiting execution. 4. Henri Landru, France. Nicknamed the real-life Bluebird, Landru would lure widows into his home via personal ads in newspapers and murder them, then burn their bodies in his own oven to hide evidence. His murders lasted between 1914 and 1919 during World War I, thus granting him many potential victims as husbands would die on the battlefield. He murdered 11 people before being captured in 1919 after the sister of one of his victims identified Landru as the last person her sister was seen with. On top of the 10 women he killed, he also killed the adolescent son of one victim. During his trial, Landru sketched a picture of his kitchen, and after it was released in 1967, writing on the back stated, "It is not the wall behind which things take place, but indeed the stove in which a thing has been burned." He was executed by guillotine in 1922, and his head is currently on display in the Museum of Death in Hollywood, California.
Wait, there's a Museum of Death? I need to see this. I need to see this museum. I'm sorry it sounds weird to say. I need to see a museum called the Museum of Death. Without a doubt, I need to see that in my lifetime. I need to see that.
3. Katherine Knight, Australia. A violent woman throughout her life, Knight held knowledge of meat preparation from her time working in a butcher shop. Acquaintances and family described her as a quick-tempered individual who...
She's one I think we heard about too. I think it's Mr. Baldwin one. But this one, she's who I'm thinking of. She's not a serial killer. Okay, it's just terrifying killers, so she could be... Now I'm about to say, because she's not a serial killer or anything like that. She only killed one person. Now I will admit, the one thing she did do is fucking psychopathic-like shit. That is next level, deserves to... Not saying not human does deserve to be called a human. But it's not, Sorry, I swear I just saw something.
Who would fly into murderous rages over mild circumstances. Knight's first 3 marriages collapsed due to her violent nature, but she later married John Price. However, things soured and Price kicked her out and filed a restraining order as he couldn't handle her abusive nature. After apparently reconciling, Knight was allowed back into the home by Price, and after he fell asleep, Knight stabbed him 37 times, then skinned him, beheaded him, and removed chunks of meat from his body. Police were notified when Price didn't arrive for work, and upon searching his home, found the grisly scene. Furthermore, Price's head was found boiling in a pot, and parts of his buttocks were frying on the stove. Knight was arrested, and she admitted she was planning to feed Price to Price's children. She received a life sentence, her file stating in big, bold letters, never to be released. 2. Luis Garavito. Also known as La Bestia, Garavito is considered the most prolific serial killer of all time. Garavito targeted children and gained their trust by offering jobs and sweets. Once alone with the children, he would tie them up, rape and eventually kill them via slicing their throat or decapitation. When he was captured in 1999, he admitted to 140 murders and has since accurately led investigators to over 170 makeshift graves of his victims.
Wow, okay, so that's why he's the most prolific serial killer. Because I was like, I've heard people with higher body counts, but I've never heard someone with that many bodies found. So he has directed people to 117 graves. So he is attended to 117 different bodies, which makes them able to put there because he knows where they are. So that adds them up. So yeah, that's probably why he's the most prolific serial killer of all time, because he actually knows where fucking people are.
He is currently awaiting conviction for 138 murders, which would normally add up to a total of 1,853 years in prison. Sadly, Colombian law limits sentences to 30 years in prison, and his sentence has been reduced to 22 years because he helped lead authorities to the bodies and has been cooperative throughout the investigation. 1.
Okay, well that second part I don't care about. The second part of he's being cooperative doesn't matter because he killed a bunch of people. But I've even made the thing that police should, if you can find bodies, don't set them free if you can, but reduce sentences. I understand that. Or if you're gonna do the things, they have done it where you'll be set free if you led them to a body. You have to have it where you find the body before you do it. Because police made the mistake in one of the cases where they agreed, hey, if you help us find the body, you get away. And then they do the paperwork that says he's free, and then all they'll do is just say, yeah, I don't know where it is, it was dumped here. And obviously there's no body there. So, but then the person gets away. I believe that's the, one of the most recent videos, the one of the brother talking to the killer, is what they've done. Is that case. But you should, yeah, if you're gonna do a sentence like that, you do it that way. You get 22 years, because you helped us find 117 graves, so 117 families get to know what happened to their children, and then he gets still a lot in prison. It's just not life, which what it should be.
Nikolai Zumagalev, Kazakh SSR. A true Hannibal Lecter, Zumagalev killed 9 women and cannibalized them during a one-year spree in 1979 and 1980. Friends affectionately called him Metal Fang due to his teeth being literally made of white metal. Zumagalev claims to have killed and eaten between 50 and 100 people and served human flesh to unsuspecting friends and relatives. He was caught after he invited several friends over, murdered one guest, and proceeded to dismember him in the adjacent room. Unsurprisingly, he was caught and the guests fled in terror. Police found...
How did he think that would work? How would he think he could murder one of his guests, dismember them, and probably plan to cook them and eat them, and not one person would figure out what happened? How do you think he'd not get caught there?
Zumagalev kneeling in his home covered in blood. In their shock, Zumagalev escaped naked into the woods with only a hatchet, though he was captured the next morning. Sentenced to a mental institution, he escaped once, but was quickly recaptured. After spending 10 years institutionalized, he was declared cured, despite protests from the police colonel, and released. His whereabouts aren't known, though he is suspected to be living with his family in Eastern Europe.
Got an idea?
Wow. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think of these in the comments section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.